2, 1, go.
Hi, I started seeing Dr. Jim back in November of 2012. I had been going to a chiropractor since I was 10 years old, and I'm now in my 40s, so for 30 years. And all the time I had been going to the chiropractor, I was always told that my one leg was shorter than the other. My right leg was shorter than my left leg, and that that could not be corrected. That I'd always have to wear a lift in my right foot. So it always made it difficult because I have to have several pairs of lifts to put in different shoes, and I always have a hard time with sandals because, of course, in a sandal you can't add a lift to a sandal. So I just figured that was going to be my life, that I'd always have one leg shorter than the other. And then when I started to see Dr. Jim, he told me almost immediately that he could correct that one leg being shorter than the other, and that I didn't need a lift, and that in fact he had experienced that himself and experienced that he didn't have to wear a lift either, that it could be corrected. And it was kind of the first time I've ever heard, again, I've been going to a chiropractor for 30 years, or different chiropractors throughout the 30 years, but I've never been told you could correct something. I kind of just assumed this is something I'm going to live with. And from the very beginning, where my first meeting with him, he told me that he could absolutely get me off the lift. And in fact, that's what he did. Within a month's time of seeing Dr. Jim, he took me off the lift, and now I walk perfectly and even without a lift ever. So I'm so excited because it's a disability that I thought I'd have the rest of my life that he is now corrected. And I guess that leads me into the idea of corrective chiropractic. Again, like I said earlier, no one ever told me that you could correct a back. I just assumed, I know you could realign things, but I figured what you're working with is really the best that you're going to have. And Dr. Jim pointed out that no, you can correct it. In fact, you can reverse all the damage, or most of the damage that has been done to you, or through different things that have happened in your life. And that's exactly what I'm experiencing through the 9 months of corrective treatment that I've received, because I'm just finishing up my 9 months treatment, and I can see it on the x-rays. He's done periodic x-rays, and I can see it on the x-rays, the correction happening both in my lower back by the opening of the space between the discs, and in my neck and the curvature of my neck. So I know it's working. I can see it on x-rays. And I feel really good that I'm able to reverse the damage before it gets too far. I'm glad I started Dr. Jim when I did, because I'm pushing it back so I'm not too far where I can correct, because I understand people can get so far in their degeneration of their spine that he can't correct them. So I feel really fortunate that I've caught it in time that we can correct it. And another thing that Dr. Jim made me aware of, that other chiropractors had never told me, that it's so important that once he does make it through the corrective phase of my treatment, that in order to keep my back in the best health, I need to continue with maintenance treatments or adjustments. And he explained to me that every 7 to 14 days, our body builds up scar tissue. So when he makes an adjustment, after that adjustment then, our body starts settling into the adjustment and creates like a scar tissue, a calcium buildup of such. And that by having a treatment within that 7 to 14 days or an adjustment, it again breaks that scar tissue up so your body can't degenerate and start setting into that, how would you say, bone state or whatever. I don't understand the technicality of it. I just understand that that's why it's so important to have a maintenance plan, so that I'm breaking that up and I'm maintaining the correction that I've just went through 9 months of treatment for. So it's just a different perspective and a different way of looking at your treatment, and that it really is an investment in my own health to do that, especially since now that I've invested 9 months of the correction and I'm seeing the results. It would be silly to not then invest in future treatment to maintain what we've already worked to achieve. So I'm excited about that, and that's news for me and probably for a lot of other people, because I don't think a lot of chiropractors explain it to their patients in those terms, you know. So people don't know. They just think, oh, you get it back in shape and it's going to stay that way. It doesn't work that way. And it's just another step in maintaining your health and creating a healthier lifestyle and well-being. The other thing I wanted to talk about was the help I've gotten with my sinus issues. I suffer, like many people, with sinus allergy induced sometimes, but sometimes my sinus issues aren't allergy induced. It's more even with the weather. It comes about with changes in barometric pressure. It's crazy. But Dr. Jim's been able to help me by doing adjustments. I had no idea. Again, I'm a person who's gone for 30 years of chiropractic. I've never had anyone tell me, oh, well, I can adjust different connections or joints or whatever in your face, facial adjustments, so that it opens up the sinuses. And in fact, it really does. I mean, when I have the sinus pressure in my head and he does those adjustments, I can immediately feel drainage that lets loose immediately, and it's just incredible. It doesn't last forever, but till my next adjustment, I know it's a good idea when but I don't suffer all the time. I can feel good for a couple days, but when he does it, it is immediate relief. So I know I do get help regarding my sinuses. And another thing, back to when I did start my chiropractic treatment with Dr. Jim, I will say within 2 weeks of starting my treatment that aside from my lift, I'm sure the lift played a large role in it, but I felt stronger. I felt like I was standing on firmer ground, and I felt my whole body. I just felt like I had a stronger skeletal frame that I could carry my body around with, and I think I'm probably not the only one who's experienced that. I think that's chiropractic, getting things aligned, opening up the joints and allowing the nerves to flow out to the organs, and I think that's an important thing. Again, I knew that all our organs in our body, you know, everything comes off the nervous system, and if your skeletal system is so compressed and so compact that you don't open it up for those nerve endings to go out to the organs they need to supply, you're going to suffer in many aspects of your life. And I know that to be true, that having a proper alignment and proper spacing between your vertebrae, it allows for the nerves to feed the organs that they're intended to feed and to operate. So I just know I've experienced, you know, better health because of my alignments.